Why Hotel Podcast is the next best thing of being there. Have you noticed how many people are having headphones on while they're walking or sitting in the bus or tram? I made a quick survey and I found out that 60% of listeners are listening to music or podcast in Spotify or another platform. 10% listen to a local radio, another 10% listen to an audiobook, and 20% of those people are listening to a podcast. In my last counts, there are millions of podcasts worldwide today. All you have to do is make a search and you will find something interesting. Particularly for hotels and Airbnbs, mostly particularly the hotels have a music playlist, but that is it. I talked with people who owns Airbnbs and smaller hotels, and one of their desires is to have better reach to travelers who are planning or coming to their destination at a reasonable cost. Marketing costs can be very high if you hire an advertising agency, and they may not know your customers, but they care about as you know them. Also you know your neighborhood, like your own pockets, and the reason people travel to your area. With these few examples, you have enough material to create a podcast every week for a year. There's another argument, is the cost of creating the podcast and of course the distribution. Well, the basic setup I have to this podcast you're listening to is my mobile device with a small lapel microphone at the cost of €40. Well, how about the studio? Well, the studio is a simple app. The app is called Spotify for podcasters. It's free and you can directly record to your mobile device. The distribution of your podcast will be taken care of by Spotify worldwide to millions of listeners. Also, YouTube has created a podcast part in their search engine by Google. So that gives you access to your Spotify created podcast distributed by YouTube Podcast. So with Spotify and YouTube now, you have a great reach. So what really is needed is a bit about planning. Create the topics what to talk about. I just jotted down 10 tips here for you. The first podcast is an introduction about yourself and your journey to become a hotel or Airbnb owner. Talk about your journey and what is special about the area you are in. Walk around your area and speak with the other shopkeepers, people living in the area, and ask them to tell you what makes the area special for them. The email or message questions from travelers that you get are a great source for topics also. Google and see what people are asking about your location. What are the questions asked? These are also very good tips for your topics that you can talk about. You can answer those questions. Also speak about the community activities you are involved in. Are you a Rotary member or Lions Club member, or do you belong to some charity organization? These are interesting activities that travelers also like to learn about, and they may have very much something in common with you. Also speak about the special events coming up in your area. You are in an area which has several seasons. There are some events that surely will interest the travelers to come over to your place. Or if you are living in the city, you have the area of your neighborhood events. So those are great reasons also to create a podcast. Take your listeners out for a walk and describe what you see. I think people are interested. Everybody doesn't have a chance to travel. So in a way, when they can't travel, your podcast is a friend who takes you on a mental trip. Okay? As a listener, you can close your eyes and imagine yourself in a beautiful garden, hearing birds chirping and leaves rustling. These podcasts help you to escape to dreamy places without leaving home. Also take your listeners to your favorite cafe and have a chat in there with your friend, or just talk about a daily event that interests you. And that is also a topic for a podcast. And always finish your podcast with a call to action by asking the listeners what they would be interested to learn about. So now you have a podcast concept, and all fun you have to do is creating a thumbnail that's the artwork for the podcast channel. I suggest you record for instance, 4 podcasts during one day, which will give you 1 month of podcast. You don't have to worry every week to create a podcast episode. By following these simple tips and staying with it, you will build an audience and customers at a very low cost. Well, if you still have doubt, then ask why so many podcasts fail. Perhaps the most significant reasons why most podcasts fail is they give up too soon. Podcast is a long game, and it takes time to build an audience and gain traction. If you are in for the long haul, the success will come, I can guarantee you. So that is today's podcast episode about the reason and how you can create success with a podcast for your business. So ask me anything about podcasting. I'm here to help. Just send a message and I reply to all messages. So have a good day and best of success in your podcasting.